Hey everybody, Joey Boy here, the Joey you can trust, back with a Walking Dead Roast 5 video, featuring Bryan, Road to NASCAR #1. Vroom vroom! It's Porsche. Thanks Joey for that segue there, it was pretty smooth, unlike Bryan's face here. Can we get some more pixels of Bryan's face, please? Can't tell if he's smiling or if he's sad. He looks pissed now. In comes Bryan into Road to Survival scene, and to obtain this, Bryan, you need to get 14,000 peas and carrots from the 3rd year Thanksgiving event. The cost for him is set high, as he is the most expensive survivor to obtain out of the 3 choices we get. Since Bryan is a collateral damage 2 survivor, let's compare him with other collateral 2 damage survivors. Out of these 4 collateral damage survivors, can you tell who isn't the premier? It's Joshua if you didn't notice his ridiculously low base attack for a damage dealer. His stats never really made sense to me. Bryan and Conrad have almost identical stats while Blue Alpha is slightly close to theirs. Even though Bryan and Conrad's stats are close, I feel Conrad will be doing more damage at the start of the fight, as he can get a lucky double attack with his weapon, but if the battle is going on for long periods of time, such as turn 3 and afterwards, then Bryan, with his every other turn being an adrenaline rush, will hit teams harder than Conrad on average. I do think though their damage output will be close though, but looking at these numbers after both of their adrenaline rushes, it's 2 turns for Bryan's adrenaline rush compared to every 3 turns for Conrad to use his adrenaline rush. Once Bryan uses his adrenaline rush, he will only need 38 AP to use his adrenaline rush again. So if you bring a huge AP when attacking leadership skill and add huge or very large AP when attacking on Bryan's weapon, then you get 40 or 38 AP attack, which means Bryan is going to be one trigger happy son of a bitch. Finding yourself matched up versus extremely tanky greens, and if you're finding yourself difficult to kill them at the moment, well, I'm telling you right now, I feel it in my bones, more are coming, so I would start to prepare and maybe think about Bryan, as it's pretty frustrating losing when you attack, especially when it comes down to you just not having enough offensive power to take them down. But just looking at this chart, we can already tell that Bryan and Conrad are 2 that can work really well together for any red-green team comps out there, which are slowly starting to make their way into the scene, with the help of leaderships from Green Garrett especially, and I expect within the next 4 weeks we will probably see another red-green leadership skill survivor. I am curious to see, over a 10-turn battle, who would output more damage between Conrad and Bryan. I wish these survivors were not so exclusive that we could run tests with them to see if they're actually worth pulling for our current roster. Let's take a look through Bryan's AR inactive. His Adrenaline Rush takes 76 AP and will deal 2 attacks of 325% basic attack damage, which means he can crit on these attacks, leading up to a total of 650% crittable damage. After his Adrenaline Rush, Bryan will get 70 crit for 2 turns and regain 50% of his AP. If his AP is maxed at 76, then he will get 38 AP for using his Adrenaline Rush, giving him 1 less turn to use his Adrenaline Rush compared to all the other 76 survivors out there, as 38 AP is literally an attack's worth of AP. With Bryan's Adrenaline Rush, you have options to command him turn 2, and then command him turn 4 for semi-burst. Or, if you need back-to-back turn heavy burst in which he can benefit from his own crit buff from his Adrenaline Rush, then don't command him turn 2, but let him use his Adrenaline Rush turn 3, so he deals his damage and then buffs himself with 70 crit. Then command him to use his Adrenaline Rush turn 4 for heavy burst damage. If you thought he did a lot of damage his first Adrenaline Rush, then get ready for the next one, because one or both attacks have a great chance to crit. Moving on to his active, we get Elusive and Attack Up, which both benefits Bryan and no one else on the team. This active to me really does not make much sense. Come turn 2 with 40 AP per attack, I am commanding him. Or, if I don't command him turn 2, I am using his Adrenaline Rush turn 3 and commanding him turn 4. I see no reason to prioritize this active over this. If we are to have Bryan only gain 30 AP per attack, then come turn 3, I have the option to command him to use his Adrenaline Rush, or have him use his Adrenaline Rush turn 4 with no command. If I command him turn 3, I can't use him turn 4. And come turn 5, you would have to be crazy to not want him to build up AP compared to giving him Elusive. I mean, the guy doesn't even have a taunt. To add this even more, come turns 4 and 5, you should have someone on your team that buffs attack to 3 to 5 survivors, like Lori as an example. If I choose to not command him turn 3, I sure as hell am not gaining Elusive and 50% attack just to then die or get CC'd from the barrage of ARs on the enemy team. So I don't command him turn 3, and I attack. Now it's turn 4 and I either use his Adrenaline Rush or his active. And I'm going to use his Adrenaline Rush. It just makes no sense whatsoever to be extremely useful. I mean, anything after turn 5, if you're not a for sure win, is so random and sporadic that it's extremely hard to theory craft after this point, as there are enemy commands, crit, combat mod, resist, etc, etc. Bryan's weapon is strange. For someone made to do damage, this special weapon mod doesn't do that, but helps him stay alive long enough for constant adrenaline rushes, as this weapon can proc twice during his adrenaline rush, giving him 40% bonus HP, just in one turn. So if you stack a shit ton of HP on this guy, you can get some decent benefits from this gun. I'm going to do 3 types of weapons here. One will make him a bit defensive, while the others go all-out damage for your attack teams. Looking at his 1200 base defense, and him being a red, I would not use him at all on defense, as 1 or 2 double attack blues, depending on how high their attack stat is, will destroy him in turn 1 easily. The first weapon will keep the special weapon mod, but we will add 2 crit crafts making 40% crit, and remove the 15% attack and put AP when attacking, so we can use Bryan's Adrenaline Rush to the fullest, as this will give us every 2 turns to use his Adrenaline Rush if we gain 38 or 40 AP per attack. The second craft is more offensive and requires no special weapon mods, and this one will be easier to obtain. First, we will replace the 15% attack with AP when attacking. Next, we will remove the bonus HP special weapon mod and replace it with attack stat for 30%. Our third craft will upgrade the attack to 35% and not the crit. This will make sure we can do 2 turn adrenaline rushes while giving us good chances to proc collateral damage too. The 35% attack will make sure we can pump out a lot of damage through his adrenaline rush, and for when collateral damage 2 procs as well, we can output even more damage. The third craft will go into his specialist skill by adding splash damage to his weapon. Splash damage has a better chance to do 80% damage to targets adjacent to the one you attacked. Combine this with collateral damage being 100% damage to 3, then you have 3 survivors taking 180% damage. The 15% attack we will replace with AP when attacking, and our last craft will be an additional 5% crit. This is a good weapon route to go if you happen to take the back-to-back turn Adrenaline Rush route, as the second Adrenaline Rush will have the bonus crit to give collateral damage to a much higher chance to proc. Moving on to the combat mods. For combat mods, I would actually do an attack or crit set. I think both of these will do wonders for you, but I think you all will have some fun with the crit damage set, especially if you use the back-to-back Adrenaline Rush strategy and get nothing but critical hits. Both of these sets I think will work out very well and can be very fun. For the first combat mod, we're going to go with attack, as we really do want every turn of attack to benefit from something. We want to hit harder every attack and every adrenaline rush. Attack versus green, we will make this guy a green killer, as we already have plenty of greens that are more suited for taking out yellows. So let's make sure this guy deletes greens on the enemy team and leave the remaining survivors to handle the yellows. As for the resist mods, I would go stun resist for the reds and greens, but ultimately we don't want him stomping midway during his adrenaline rush, regardless if we have a recover stun or not, as that is 325% damage we are missing out that could actually collateral damage too. Diffuse resist isn't a bad option either against some heavy Shiva team comps, and we honestly do not want him hitting his own team, proccing collateral damage too, and if he ended up putting splash damage weapon mod, there is a good chance he will just mow your entire team down, and you're going to be pretty pissed after that. Next combat mod, we're going to go crit damage, as this guy is very crit-centric, so if a lot of his attacks are going to be crits, let's make him crit harder. And as for the final wildcard combat mod, let's go with a critical strike chance combat mod, making him synergize even more with his damage output. For team comps, I'll be making 3 offensive teams, as I am having a very hard time believing this guy will survive turn 1, having 1200 base defense and being a red survivor, as those blue double attack weapons out there, they really sting. This first team is very brute force. Andrea for leadership skill to allow Bryan and Conrad to not need a command turn 3. We bring in Sadiq so that we can command Riker turn 3 to use his adrenaline rush first, so that either Bryan or Conrad get the 120% damage buff increase. If Conrad gets the buff, he can then use his Adrenaline Rush, crush others, and then pass on another 60% crit chance buff to potentially giving it to Bryan, who can then use his Adrenaline Rush to then mow down the rest of the enemy survivors. Either Bryan or Conrad getting a buff that massive, and with collateral damage too, both of them using their Adrenaline Rushes together with that combined damage will be absurdly high. For anyone else left, we can use Andrea's Adrenaline Rush to finish them off. The second team comes with a little bit more utility and more occasional single target burst. With follow-up Morgan, we can get a kill turn 1 or at the start of turn 2 to then use his Adrenaline Rush in hopes to get another kill. Morgan will be that wild card you have throughout the fight that can just randomly delete an enemy survivor. Since Lewis' Adrenaline Rush only takes 58 AP, we can command him turn 2 to eliminate a green, and if he doesn't kill the survivor, with his last attack he can potentially crit, which will disarm our next target to focus. Also during turn 2, we can use Spencer's active to stun somebody if needed. Turn 3 is where Spencer and Bryan will reach their Adrenaline Rushes, and if you have the option to command either Spencer or Bryan, if you choose to command Spencer, you will make it easier during this turn to get a kill for Morgan to proc his follow-up, as he will be lowering defenses. If the enemy has tons of stun resist and is mainly green, then you can command Bryan to unleash a bucket of urine all over the enemy. This last attack team is going to be less premier and more along the lines of free-to-play. Even though Disarm Michonne is in the team, I feel she's been in enough wheels to pull from whether it been from an event or out of pocket, and it's been over a half year since she has been released. This team will be more of a turn 3 and turn 4 powerhouse team, which is mainly in the free-to-play direction. Turns 1 and 2, we are just basic attacking and using Sadiq and Dwight's active for crowd controlling the enemy to prevent ARs or human shields. We then have Mirabelle and Disarm Michonne for cleansing, stun, and impair respectively. Once we reach turn 3, we have the option to command Mirabelle, Bryan, Dwight, or Disarm Michonne. You can command Michonne for a kill and a disarm on your next enemy hit, or Dwight if we need burst damage with removing enemy defense buffs. We can also use Bryan for heavy AoE damage with collateral damage too, and potentially splash damage if you took that weapon route. If we are in need of mass crowd control, we can then use Mirabelle's AR to potentially stun 3 enemies. After that, you can then use the remaining Adrenaline Rushes to then finish off the enemy. That's going to wrap up the video on Nascar Bryan. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, it made you laugh before you did anything positive, please get a nice karate chop that like, subscribe button. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Sports greatly appreciated. And on that, I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye bye!